Welcome to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? Success in business most often comes down to hard work, not by silver bullets and quick fixes. It's knowing where to focus that hard work that's key to winning. Join sales prospecting expert and 3-time seven-figure business founder Carrie Richardson and managing partner of R&R Consulting and former owner of Doberman Technologies, Ian Richardson, for radical honesty regarding strategic planning, accountability, and execution that will get you the systematic results you're working toward. Let's get into today's episode. Thought leader and your host, Carrie Richardson.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carrie Richardson, and I am your host for Win What's Important Now. Today, we're asking that question to Mike Ita of IT Core. IT Core is a managed service provider located in Ohio that specializes in working with one specific industry. Tell us a little bit about how you started that business and how you chose that niche, Mike.
I fell into running or owning IT Core. It was birthed out of a partnership that was going downhill. We'd been together for 6 years and we were profitable up until we weren't. There was a lot of speculation on where that money was going because I didn't handle the finance side of it. And we decided to split up, and I took the most of the main customers because that's what I came with, started IT Core. I had been a consultant before doing different jobs for different companies, but I never owned a company all by myself. I decided to take it on because either I go back to working for somebody or I move forward and make something great. I learned a lot of stuff in the first couple of years. I had worked in a lot of different industries, finance, sometimes government, lawyers, doctors, and it got to the point where I liked them. They were great industries, but I realized I always felt like there was something missing. So fast forward a couple of years, I had this cat and he was starting to get sick. I had taken him to this clinic for a while, and I got to know the doctors and the staff pretty well. And they'd always complain about their computers and how bad they were. They just didn't run right. And I'd always make a joke. I'd be like, I know a guy. And I didn't hard sell anything. I'd left it on the table, and I always would walk in and out of there. And this cat had kidney problems, so he was in and out every couple months, or he'd do checkups and stuff like that. They had 2 locations, and I would take my cat to the closest to me. They had a main location that was 20 minutes south of me. He wasn't doing well. I took him into the main clinic because that's the only appointment I can get last minute. So I got him in there talking to the staff, and they're like, hey, here we're talking to IT companies. I was like, okay, so do you want to talk to the manager? I said, yeah. So the manager comes into the exam room and she's like, hey, we're looking for companies. If you're interested, whatever. I said, I'm very interested. You worked with veterinary before. And I was like, huh? I had never worked with veterinary before. Ever. And I was like, of course I have. And the cool part about it was anything has a process, right? If you're logical, all IT is logic, in my opinion. There's some inherent knowledge you have to pick, but logic dictates everything in this space most of the time. And I've been doing it for a while to know that I could figure out. One of my skills is being able to sit down and look at something and break it all down piece by piece and put it back together and make it either better or just nurture it, or I could do this. So they interview 5 companies, they choose us. And so that starts my first veterinary customer. And really fast, I realized that I love this space. The doctors are super appreciative. There was very little condescending. A lot of times when people get stressed in certain industries, they treat you poorly, or they expect you to show up right now, or they just have that tone. And I experienced that a lot with government and some other industries. I like doing what I do, but it's not nice when somebody decides to have a bad day on you. So anyway, starting to work with these guys and it's going well. I really like the space. Now it's time to go after more. I want more veterinary customers. So how do I do it? I did what a lot of people might have done. I started reaching out to them directly, or I was sending out packets of information or letters like, hey, come check us out. We work with your space. And there was really no return. And I got one off of Facebook, which is odd. I'm so really surprised about that. So I decided to call. I started looking around the industry and I'm like, where do these guys go for more information, learning credits and stuff like that? So in Ohio, in Columbus, they do a big event every year called the Midwest Veterinary Conference. So I call them and I say, hey, I want to set up a booth at this event. What does it take? She's, what kind of product do you have? I sell IT services to veterinary clinics. She's like, oh, we're looking for a product. If you got a product to showcase, because this is what it's all about. I was like, okay. So do you guys have any sponsorships? She's like, yeah. How many? She's 3. We have one that nobody ever sponsors because it's too expensive. They would give out little flash drives with all the stuff on it. Well, nobody sponsors that. I said, okay. So hypothetically speaking, I said, if I did all 3 of those sponsorships, could I get a booth? She said, let me call you back. A half hour goes by, phone rings again. She said, you'd be a really good fit for us. So I literally bought my way in, and it was an easy way to get in front of those people. And by September, they already booked up. It goes in February, right? So most of the stuff is already reserved. So I couldn't get in that year, so I planned to go the following. So from that September to that August, the next August, I had put together a product. So I took a BDR. It was something I built with Super Micro Board, and it was powered by StorageCraft. I put a logo on. I called it System Retriever. I paired it with an offsite data center in Cleveland here. I rented some space in the rack, and I would pump all the data from the BDRs to that. So that became my BDR on site with an offsite recovery piece. So that's what I brought to the conference. I bought my booth. I got my stuff set up, and it was going well. We were meeting doctors, actually, not just staff that comes by to pick up your swag. We had doctors come by. What are you guys doing here? Who are you? We got a chance to introduce ourselves. So we got a couple prospects. I think we might have gained 1 or 2 customers from that initial run. And then we would go back every year for a couple of years. And then I got to know the people that would run the event. And I'm like, how do you speak at this thing? And they were like, what do you mean? I go, I want to get up there and talk to people about IT and security and the things that matter. So this guy, he's okay. We've never had an IT company do that. You're the first IT company at this thing. So what are you thinking about talking about? I said, I don't know. We'll put together like 6 presentations with just name and description, submit them, and we'll get back to you. I'm like, okay. So I do that, and I send them all out. And I'm not really a big public speaker guy. I'll speak to a small group of people to train you, but I've never been in front of people to talk to people, but I'm like, hell with it. I'm going to go for it and see what happens. This guy calls me back in 2 or 3 months, and he's like, hey, you got your presentation. So I was like, cool. I go, which one? He's like, all 6. I go, oh, and this is like a 4-day event, right? I'm like, oh. I go, which ones? He's like, all 6. I go, oh, okay. So I'm like, great. I go, so all like 2 a day? Thinking they're going to space them out. He's like, no, all 6 in the same day, back to back. I had a half hour in between each one, right? Or whatever it was. I'm like freaking out now. And I got to give credit to another person. It's not a plug or anything. I call him on the phone. It's Manny Pelichek. I tell him the whole story, and he just starts laughing. He is dying on the phone. He's like, you are going to learn that day, buddy. So I go, will you come up and co-speak with me? I said, so you can keep me on pace. I said, so I don't screw this up. He goes, absolutely. So he does. It was a total slam dunk. We probably had 90 to 100 people in the room the whole day. Most of those people stayed the whole day. A lot of the same faces were there for each presentation. And I decided to take a quick break after because we had 4 or 5 people at the booth. I told everybody, I'm like, hey, I need a break. I need to go eat. And after it was all done, it was like, I don't remember what time, like 6 o'clock at night. And everybody's calling me like, hey, you need to get to the booth. There's like a line of people waiting to talk to you. So I run back to the booth. There's 15 or 20 people there waiting. They're all owners and managers. Like, we want to work with you. In my head, I'm like, this is crazy. So sure enough, I end up with 10 new customers, solid new customers. The other ones were potentials, but it was crazy. It was like something out of a comic book, you know what I mean? So that's how it started, and that was like the catapult to just staying in this space. So over the next couple of years, I stayed there and I nurtured it. The BDR was going well. It seemed to be a good complement for their business. They could relate to the name, and all they cared about was their stuff working. Honestly, they were so appreciative. The doctors, the only thing they cared about is they could enter notes, they could dictate, they could do all the fancy stuff. And when they printed a prescription label, they didn't have to worry about screwing around with the label printer for a half hour. And as long as everything worked, that is the only thing they ever cared about. That story I just told you got me on the cover of Channel Pro in 2017, actually, about the BDR. It just seemed like it made sense. I didn't want to give my money to Datto. Datto was still, they had their Altos and they had all that stuff then. They signed the agreement, but you're putting money in their pocket. And I was like, I could do this and take all the money and I could be profitable from that. It just made more sense to me, and I had a good relationship with StorageCraft. If we stuck around for more than 7 or 8 months, we became profitable on it, and I had warrantied them for 3 years, and I had nothing but parts on hand.
You self-warrantied them as well.
It was a no-brainer. Still to this day, it's still a profitable thing for us. We have only one customer at this point, not veterinary, and it's been a long-term customer that we've been working with forever. We just support their systems and their salespeople.
How do you see the veterinary industry changing through technology in the next 5 years? What will you need to do differently to support the changes in their businesses?
Good question. What I need to do is, the trend is in the last probably 5 years, maybe 6 now, a lot of practices, a lot of your bigger practices were private owned. So they're owned by doctors. They were started by a doctor, and then a lot of times as they grow and they get more doctors on, they become partners, and so a lot of these bigger practices that have good reputations are getting bought by corporations. So that if you've ever heard of one called MedVet, we had 4 clinics up here in Ohio. In a matter of 2 weeks, they made an agreement with all those clinics and bought them all out.
So private equity is impacting your business in a negative way at that point.
Exactly. Because they keep me around the trend is usually about 2 years. We'll stick around, do the transition, and they sunset us. So what I need to do is decide, because these companies are bringing their own IT staff in, which means we go away, which means I'm out of customer. The other problem is even the current customer base, but again, there's like this shift. Okay, you have this corporation, right? There are people on the outside, people like you and me, that don't want to deal with corporate because there's a lot of stuff there. There's always a high price with corporate, no matter what. You're going to be in serious money, but corporate-based stuff has typical high-end lab work and all the good stuff, right? Private stuff, a lot of times you'll hit a level where they're like, we can't help you because we don't have the equipment. You have to go to that place. You're going to have to transition over. They're also moving into web-based products. They're moving into practice management softwares that are cloud-based. Where they always had a server on-prem, we'd always support the server and installations and new PCs. They're moving away from the traditional model of having an on-prem server. In the last 5 years, they've really moved into web-based stuff. So their security needs, network needs, any infrastructure needs still exist. You're just supporting a different piece of the puzzle. For me, it's still very similar, if not identical. Unless the company that supports them, like there's a big company called IDEX, known in the veterinary space, and they come with a big price, but their support is top notch. And we'd like to be the third party liaison for those. We prefer to be, because then it keeps us in the loop. But sometimes the customer will call on their own and they'll resolve the issue without us being involved. So there's a tricky part there. For me, it's just staying in the loop, making sure that they know that we're there to be there for that. It's part of their agreement. It's part of what they pay for. So they utilize us. I got a practice right now that has 3 different managers, and it's like the telephone game, right? I'll get a call or a text, hey, we need you to fix this thing. I'll go in to go to fix it. It's already fixed. Then we find out later that so-and-so took care of it. So a lot of times I'm beating my head against the wall and I'm like, oh my God, if you just let me know. I don't even care if it's just a text message, hey, we took care of it. Growing with that industry, we're still growing with it, but it's definitely shifting. It's moving into another space. I still think we're going to have private practice because people prefer taking their animal to a private practice, or smaller towns that we work in, smaller cities.
There's always going to be somebody who leaves that private equity owned practice disgruntled, tired of working for private equity, to go start their own veterinary clinic.
Absolutely.
And then they'll realize 8 years in that they're going to have to sell to somebody at some point if they want to retire, and the circle of life continues.
I agree. There's such a shortage of doctors, and they're already so tapped out money-wise. Like they're so far in debt that the thought of them owning a practice is completely insurmountable for them.
I think dentists have the same experience, right? You're either born into a family where one of your parents is a dentist and they leave you their practice, or you come into practice with an extraordinary amount of debt and you've got to go deal with that. Startups are expensive. Clinics are expensive. They need stuff. I started my business from my kitchen table. I needed $0 and zero anything that I didn't already have on hand. I had a computer and a phone. That's all I needed. You can't really run a veterinary clinic with things that you have on hand.
Right.
Are they doing telemedicine in veterinary clinics?
So that's interesting you say that, because I was going to jump on that opportunity. As soon as COVID started coming around, and I anticipated it getting worse. I didn't know how bad it was going to get or how much stuff was going to happen. I just saw it coming as an opportunity. So I was looking at registering certain domain names to be specific. I was even calling There was a company out of California. They were this small company that did telemedicine for veterinary. And I called the guy direct. I go, I want to leverage your platform, but I want to put my name on it. I said, but I want to sell it to these clinics. I said, I just need the infrastructure piece that I don't have. I said, I don't know if that's something you want to do. He's like, absolutely. We don't care. We have a platform. We're trying to get it out there. I'm like, cool. So this guy and I talked a dozen times about it. We were just about to pull the trigger. And then pandemic hits and the guy didn't talk to me anymore because he blew up overnight. They blew up. Their prices went from this reasonable cost product to triple in literally a week's time. And I was like, this guy don't want anything to do with me anymore. You don't need me. So I came to him with this idea, and my customers were so on board with it at first. I had plans, I had the camera designs and everything else. I had it all set up, and I was pitching it to different clinics. I'm like, hey, you could add this in here, and you don't have to worry about contact. You could talk to the people in the car if you wanted to. You could have a vet visit with them. You could have their animal in the queue, and they could ask questions. I don't know. It was a big thing then. It seems to be these really big practices that have 8 or 9 doctors are utilizing like a televet kind of like a product. Nothing that we've been able to leverage though, to be honest, that we could call our own, because they're like, there's a couple big names in the industry. There's, like I said, there's IDEX, there's Covet, there's another one I can't think of, but they all have their own products and they've all been scooping up all these little products and putting them under their umbrella. I'm working on angles with IDEX and Covetrus to be partnered to sell those products. So I'm hoping to be involved with them to at least get a piece of that to make it work, so that I'm somebody they call for that help.
What's the natural progression towards diversification as you grow as a business? At some point, if veterinary clinics keep getting gobbled up by private equity, that's going to limit your total addressable market. So how do you
I've
protect
been on the
yourself
fence with
against
this.
that?
I've been really sitting on this because I think after going to Charlotte and seeing you guys, Ian talked about that different ways to stick out in the crowd. This is the niche that we've fallen into, and we've been able to ride it for a long time. It's been very good. And I've actually considered that, and I'm getting older, like all of us. And I wonder what my landscape looks like next. I've spent very little time deciding what direction to go. I have not spent a lot of time looking at what happens if all these clinics go corporate. What happens to Mike? I don't know if I could retire. I don't want to retire because I get up in the morning and I'm very self-motivated. I've been offered a couple different jobs, but it would have to take me away from this, or they want me to relocate. Actually, you said Arizona earlier. That's one place that one of the guys out there wants me to move out to. He's, dude, I'll give you whatever you want. And I was like, man, like
Arizona's great until June.
Yeah, right.
From June to September, it is untenable to live there. Summer home in Ohio, that's a possibility.
And I thought about it. Trust me, I did this. I sat on this for a minute. I even thought about moving to Hawaii. I have to be here. I thoroughly enjoy my customer. I've got the kind of customers that I just recommend something. There's no questions. Just tell me what we got to pay. There's no argument. All the customers that used to be a problem are all gone. Either I fired them or because we had to. It was just the relationship wasn't, there was lack of whatever. It just was not going well. And I was like, we got to make some changes here. I want to help you guys, but it looks like it's not a good fit for us anymore. So we moved on from those guys, and we now have only customers that are just what you call A-level customer. They're really good people and trust us so much that I don't have to worry about a lot of pushback on anything. As long as I keep doing my job and everything works, they love me.
Yeah, no, for us, it was always, you were only as good as your last appointment.
Yeah. No.
Do you not remember the 6-figure ARR deal you closed last month? No, what have you done for me lately? Always.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah, you guys
well,
are
that seems
definitely
like
a different space for that.
this is something that people are buying from Mike. They're not
Yeah.
buying from random $4 an hour telemarketer from the Philippines. They have a personal relationship with you. It's going through referrals and it goes through event
Absolutely.
outreach. Are you planning a national play? How you either add more veterinary clinics or you charge more money?
I
Another
think adding a
vertical?
couple clinics would be good. I'm actually going down that path. So we stepped out of the Midwest Veterinary Conference for a little while. You can only kill so much and eat it. So we got to the point where I was like, we're getting a little bloated, and that's good. And at that time I had 5 employees and things were pretty good. And like you said, they want me. A lot of the customers, they're buying me. They're buying IT Core like Ita. And I realized that the hard way with one customer. We had a customer I had for about 16 years at some point. The most profitable customer we ever well, yeah, at the time. They were doing really well for us. And I had to step up. Like I told them, I said, hey, we're gonna bring a guy. They didn't want to hire an employee to be an IT person. They wanted to keep my guy out there 3 or 4 days a week. I said, okay, sure. This is how much it'll cost to keep this dude out there. So I was that guy prior to bringing this guy out there.
I feel like I've heard this story before.
Despite how well this guy did, and I trained him, I picked him out. I said, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we work with this customer. They liked him at first, and it got to the point where he didn't deliver well. And I didn't know he wasn't delivering for a while. But when I found out he wasn't doing the things that we'd agreed to, it was already too late. He'd already burned the bridge enough that when I tried to salvage the relationship, they were like, yeah, we're going to start looking for other IT companies. And I was like, damn it. And had I been more attentive on it, because I was growing, I was moving in other directions, I did not pay enough attention to it. And I kicked myself for a little while for that. But it obviously, I took it from the other side. I took the positive out of it, and it taught me that lesson to pay attention. Always be on the pulse of that customer, at least as best you can. And we go out of our way. We do the little things. I make an effort to talk to the management on a regular basis, calling and or get on a more personal level with them. Like, hey, how you doing? How's this? How's that? And I actually care. And I remember what Ginger's kids, like she talks about with her kids, they're in school, they draw cool pictures and put them on the wall for her. I ask questions about stuff like that, or I'll just show up. There's a really cool donut shop here that does these crazy over the top donuts. I'll randomly just pick a couple customers that day and I'll go buy a bunch of donuts at 6 a.m. and I'll drive them out to the customers. That's my job for the day, just to go drop off donuts and shake hands and be like, really good seeing you guys. Call me if you need me. 9 times out of 10, it's always, oh, by the way, we were meaning to talk to you about this thing. Oh, cool. Now I got something to do. So I put it on my list. I make an effort to do really over the top Christmas gifts, and it's not super expensive, but like the one year I bought these little Christmas tree kits. They were just circuit boards and wires and LEDs and stuff. And I sat like for 3 months, I sat there every Saturday morning, 3 or 4 hours, soldering these damn things together. And they were these little tiny Christmas trees. They had batteries and you turn them on. And that's what I gave them. And they were like, did you make this? I said, I did. So I do stuff like that. And I think that puts us a little apart because we have a personal relationship with them enough to the point where I've even befriended some of these people. We're like good. Yes, if we ever moved away, if they ever moved away, it would be like a really cool friendship. Like they would still call me and be like, hey, what's up? So we've got a really good thing going with these people. And I think that that also sets us apart is having a personalized relationship with them. And again, that all leads back to me though. None of my employees were doing that. We unfortunately lost that customer. I learned really fast that no one's going to care. No one's going to nurture this thing like I will. I don't know what has actually set us apart other than me just being a real human being about it and talking to these people, actually caring about the business side. And I actually lose sleep I've woken up having a solution in my head, literally woke up. I know how to fix that. I'll grab my phone or write it on my little notepad real quick and I'm out because I won't remember it in the morning. I've done it. And I actually lose sleep over some things like that. And I still do. And I still love this space. And when we finally met, how many years? We've been talking. I met when we first started talking. And I saw your article in Channel Pro. When I read it, I sent you a message or something. I was like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? Yeah, sure. So I picked your brain and you answered everything. What was really cool to me was that you took the time out to answer questions. It put me in a direction finally to go down a path and make a final decision because I was so undecided with some stuff. And having the ability to have access to that was immeasurable, I guess, for me. So I've been lucky enough to meet people. So now going to Channel Pros, most of the time I go for the people because I have some really good relationships with people that I nurture. And I want to make sure we keep staying connected because life is too fast. You get too far away from people.
You're also going to be the guy that someone calls one day with a bunch of questions that seem like day one questions to you. And, now you get to return that favor to the industry, which I think is important.
I'll tell you what, it was really flattering you asked me to be on this because this is my first podcast ever. That's pretty cool.
You've got a unique business because not everyone decides to go all in on one particular niche. At what point does that become unsustainable for an MSP? Do you have an emergency plan to pivot? That's a big consideration in niche specificity. I believe that generalists can charge what the market will bear. Specialists can charge whatever they want.
True.
And so if you are a specialist in veterinary medicine support, your rates should, theoretically be higher than somebody who supports any kind of business that takes their money.
Worst case scenario, like if Mike lost all his customers tomorrow and they were gone, what would I do? I got enough saved to last me. I also have to decide whether I'm going back to work for somebody at that point, because there's a couple local MSPs that I know well. I make jokes about getting old. I'm an old IT guy at this point. I'm not there yet. Not there yet.
There must be other veterinary medical specialist IT firms in North America. Maybe it's time to have some conversations.
There's a handful, especially in the ASCII group. I know there are a couple that exist there. There's this guy that I've talked to up here. He focuses on veterinary. He's the only other one I know of. And he's a smaller company. Of the other MSPs I know around here, when I talk about what we work with, their first response is, hell kind of money's in that? That's the exact words. And I'm like, you'd be surprised. I said, they have equipment.
People love their dogs. People love their cats.
The veterinary space is so used to paying. It's very similar to the wedding industry. They are so used to paying top dollar for every single thing. You have an endoscope, right? And they have a little foot pedal for pictures, right? That little serial pedal, right? Anybody that's been around long enough knows that there ain't nothing to a serial cable. It's a button. So that the foot pedal breaks or the cable, something happened to it. And the customer's, hey, think you can fix this? I said, I sure can. They want to charge us $500 for this pedal. I said, $500? I go, that's not worth 20, maybe 30 total. I don't want to undercut anybody. I said, but when you're getting gouged, I'm not cool with that. I said, I can fix it for you. I said, I'll do it for $80. I said, that'll cover my labor and time and parts and whatever else. I always work in a fair way. My former business partner, we split the customer base. A couple years later, this guy calls me, one of the former customers. Okay, what do you need? He's not helping us the way you used to. I said, okay. So let me look into what I can do for you. I'll just do an evaluation and I'll decide. And it was neglect. There was some neglect there. And I stepped in and I was like, okay, so I can help you. So we ended up with a customer back. And that seems to be the cycle of life with things, because I like to get things nice and functional. I document the heck out of it. And things tend to keep working unless somebody breaks it or it's a power outage and something gets taken out, stuff like that. My job is easy for the most part.
Stop there now. You just got to stop right there. You're going to jinx yourself.
Thank you.
My job is easy for the most part. Yeah, great. Let's see what tomorrow looks like for IT core.
Good call.
It's like saying the traffic is good today. I really appreciate you coming and sharing with us today. Happy to be the first podcast. Probably won't be the last. We have a whole network of MSP focused podcasts, and everybody's always looking for guests. So I would definitely talk to them and make the rounds. You've got a good story.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for being here today.
You've been listening to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? We're so glad you've joined us and know you're one step closer to winning big in your business too. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to connect@rnr.consulting. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll easily know when new episodes are available. Until next time, you can win, and we're here to help.